Hey everyone, welcome in. This is a video where I'm showing off my top 5 keys, or top 5 favorite keys. Let me specify because there is a difference. Um, this is for AlexBigBlue. He requested this, our 5 favorite keys. So there's a lot that goes into this for me when you say favorite. So it's not always necessarily my most valuable comic. It's some of these are very sentimental. Some of these I had to look up to see if they were even keys, just to double check. I think they all are. There's one that might be a little iffy. Um, Maybe a couple. Hopefully just one. But anyways, I have a little intro I'm gonna do, so I'm gonna turn it over as we speak for 1 second. So, what is a key? Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines a key as a usually metal instrument by which the bolt of a lock is turned. Oh, that doesn't help me here. So I had to go down the definitions, kept looking. A free throw area in basketball is a key. That doesn't help me either. So I just decided to throw out the dictionary and just go with my own definition of a key, which is something that provides entry. That would be how I would define a key. So I thought that was kind of interesting. You know, of course, that's a joke on a key to get into a house or into something that's locked. But I thought if you look at it that way, a key, in terms of comics, could be an entryway, a gateway into something greater, something more interesting. And I think my definition of a key comic would be a comic that is noteworthy or significant in some way. So, like I said, some of these, a lot of these comics are just significant to me, and I actually had to write down why each of them is an actual key by, definition of what a key comic is. I do want to preface this also by saying that some of these are not my most valuable comics. Some of these are not like my most top best comic books, but it is a mixture of that. There's definitely some of that in here, mixed with stories, mixed with just phases that our channel has gone through in my comic buying. I don't know, there's phases to my comic buying that, they've just changed over time. So I do think that's something that I would like to point out with this video. And the final little disclaimer, this is supposed to be my top 5 favorite keys, but Wesley and I are kind of notorious for being unable to narrow things down. So there will be a top 5, but there's also an honorable mention, and then like 10 other honorable mentions. So, all right, let me start really quick with book number 16 on this list, the true honorable mention. I didn't bother to go find it because it's in a different location. But The Amazing Spider-Man number 1 from 2018, which I believe is number... it's either 801 or 802. It was the start of the run with Kindred. I don't know why I'm blanking on the exact number. I just know it's off by 1, so issue 800. So I guess 801 would be number 1. Somewhere in there. Anyways, that one is significant to me because that is the first modern Spider-Man book that I bought that really kicked off the channel and got me into buying new comics. So I thought that one was very significant, and I would put it somewhere on this list. But from there, let's ramp it up. I'll try to get through these next 10 really quickly before I get to the actual top 5. But some of these have stories, and a lot of them, all of them are important to me. So, all right, let's roll with it. We have The Invincible Iron Man number 2. Now, I don't know how valuable this comic is, but it's in great shape. I was kind of nervous this one might not be an actual key, even though it's old, even though it's Iron Man number 2. But I looked it up, and thank goodness it's actually considered the first appearance of Janice Cord, the girlfriend of Tony Stark. So I haven't kept up with Iron Man in a while, so I don't know if she shows back up, but it is by definition a key. But to me, it's just one of those, I can't believe I own this. I can't believe how good it looks. and I'm just very proud to have this in my collection. All right, next we have the Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows, number 11 variant edition. This is one that I won. By this time, when Battlegrounds was doing the comic auctions, when Shane and Dustin were heavily involved. So that, because that was pretty much my heyday of participating in those. This one, as you can see, was a $55 value. That's how much you would pay for it straight up if you bought it in the store. And I actually won this, so that's very special. That's a really cool thing that makes it significant to me, and I don't win a lot of things. So, and this, of course, this is also significant, especially because it's signed by J. Scott Campbell. So, I believe that makes it a key. If not, it's at least a key to me. Alright, so that should bring us to number 13. Here we have Wolverine from the 1988 run, number 10. This is one of those I've just always wanted since I was in middle school. Finally, I was able to get it. You can see Battlegrounds for $20 is significant for being the first Wolverine and Sabretooth battle. Makes it really easy to remember why they're keys when they do this. So, I like that. Just a book I wanted for a long time, finally able to get. I also forgot to show off the certificate of authenticity on that Renew Your Vows book. Thought that was pretty cool too. Totally forgot to show that. Okay. Moving on to number 12. This is probably one of the least valuable comics that I'm showing off here in terms of price. It looks like it's in really good shape, but this is Wolverine number 2 from the 1988 run, which is my favorite run of Wolverine. I haven't read all of them, but I've read a significant chunk of most Wolverine runs, and this one's my favorite. So this is number 2. This is especially significant to me because found this in the bins at why am I going blank? Was it? Oh dear Lord, Wesley, don't make fun of me. The comic book store in Cartersville, was it Gamers Haven, I think? God, I hope I said that right. Anyways, that was our hub when we started the channel. God, I have such good memories there. It's just funny, I guess I just haven't said the name in a while. But anyways, Wolverine number 2. I think this one was supposed to be more, but somehow it was labeled a certain way that when I went to the checkout, it rang up for, I think, $1 or $2. I can't remember. Anyways, I was just excited that I got it for something I could afford because I was broke back then. But that was a cool story because that came from our hub, the golden days of the channel starting. All right, so this next one here, I'm extremely excited to show off. This is the first time I think that I've showed it on the channel. At least I believe so. All right, here we have Star Wars Obi-Wan number 1 variant edition. And this one is especially significant because it is a variant that was sold at Star Wars Celebration 2022, which I believe took place in Anaheim. My friend Nick, of Nick and Mello's hyperspace fame, actually got Mello from the same podcast to pick this up for me, I believe, at Star Wars Celebration. So this was a super awesome surprise I wasn't expecting at all. And Obi-Wan is my favorite Star Wars character, and I'm a big Star Wars fan, so I absolutely love this cover. I love the story behind it. I love that I got something so cool from somewhere I've never even been able to attend. So this is why I can't just do a top 5 AlexBigBlue. There's just too many cool stories, too many cool, unique aspects to some of these comics. But anyways, also I want to take that opportunity to shout out Nick and Mello's Hyperspace, a very cool Star Wars podcast that you can also find on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. I need to catch up on the last several episodes myself, but check them out if you're a Star Wars fan. Alright, so we're getting to the top 10. We're getting closer to the actual point of the video. Alright, and this I've showed off once before, which I had forgotten until Wesley just showed me not long ago. Here we have Wolverine number 1 from the 1982 run. This was, limited series, as it says at the top. So this one is pretty significant. This one here, it's the first solo Wolverine, obviously. I'm looking at my notes. Sorry, that's why the camera's drifting. But first solo Wolverine, first cameo of Yukio, and the famous quote, "Best there is at what I do." So all that came from this book. Pretty iconic cover. I believe in the notes, this kind of gets, what would you say, like mimicked a lot. Books take inspiration of it, or people try to redo it. So very classic cover. I also forgot to mention that Wolverine number 2 was a key because it was the debut of the Muramasa blade that was effective against the healing factor. Forgot to mention that a second ago. All right. And also, if I forgot to mention it, that was a gift from Wesley and Jessica, that Wolverine number 1 from 82, which was an awesome surprise when I got that. All right. Next. Now, this is one that was definitely significant for our channel. X Factor number 6. This is First Apocalypse. And so when we started the channel in 2018, we visited What If Comics in our first official episode. And so this, trying to think, I believe I bought this when we went back the second time when we heard they were actually closing down. And the $40 price tag is not what I paid. I believe I paid 50% off and got this for $20. Or I may have gotten it for $10. And the funny thing about this book was $10 was the most I had ever paid for a comic book in my life. So I think this tied that record, but it was just funny because I tied it really quickly once we got into this. And it's significant, not just because it's First Apocalypse, but it was the first key I actually obtained once we got the channel going. It may have been my first key I ever owned, except for I may have owned, something of a key by accident when I was collecting in my teenage years without really even knowing what that meant. And obviously never paid more than $10 for a book. Actually, that book is coming up on this list, so if it is a key, then that would have been my first key. But that was, the First Apocalypse was definitely the first one on the channel. All right, next we have this. This one is really significant to me. So this is number 8 on the list. I guess we're still in the honorable mention phase. Anyways, this is Fantastic Four number 19. Really old, not in great condition. As you can see, it's in poor condition, and is also an incomplete, which is like technically worse than poor, because half of a page is missing. But I got this for really, really cheap at the end of my second FarleyCon in the spring of 2019. And if you've never seen the video, maybe try to find it on the channel because it's so funny seeing Wesley's reaction. Because I didn't realize what I had bought, but this was first Ramatut, who becomes Kang. So in a sense, it's debatably the first Kang, but he doesn't go by Kang. He goes by Ramatut. So yeah, that's pretty debatable. I don't go around telling people I have first Kang, but it's still pretty cool just to own this book, especially with the significance of Kang here lately. But yeah, not in great shape, but very cool to own. But that was one of my favorite memories of our channel to this point. Absolutely, I love that video too. Next we have number 7. I didn't want to just overdo Spider-Man so much in this video. This one is really hard to keep out of the top 5, but I had my reasons. So it actually is number 7, honorable mention in this video. First Carnage, ASM 361. My best buddy Shane, he actually helped me get this. He had it and sold it to me at a price that I could afford. And he helped me so much, and we're about to get into that. Really get into some of the heavy hitters from that time. But this is, in my mind, the second most prestigious book he helped me get, but I could be wrong about that. But anyways, First Carnage, it looks beautiful, and I couldn't have done it without Shane. Alright. This one is also due to Shane. This is number 6, and technically the last honorable mention, which is crazy to me that this is an honorable mention, along with Carnage. But here we have Amazing Spider-Man number 121, which is significant for being the death of Gwen Stacy. As you can see, it's not in the best condition. This gentleman grew a beard. The T grew a beard. I think those Aunt May wrinkles are legit. Anyways, so I have a really cool story about this book. So I go after Spider-Man keys. That's just kind of my thing. and I just love Spider-Man above all the rest. Well, I got to looking at someone posted this book online for a certain price, and it's been about 3 or a little over 3 years now, and I was really about to pull the trigger. I really wanted it, and I just got the good sense. You know what? I'm gonna message Shane, since he had been helping me get these books lately, and I wasn't asking Shane for anything other than advice. And I was like, "Hey man, this guy's selling ASM 121 in such and such condition for this price. Like, do you think that's a fair price? Should I do it?" And Shane had a classic Shane reaction of, "Well, heck, man, why don't you just let me sell it to you? I've got it, and I'll give you a better deal than that guy." So, and he did, and I don't think that book was in any better condition than this one. But yes, Shane hooked it up again for a price I could afford, and that is just one of the most special books to me, not just because of, what it is, but because of Shane and all those great memories. That might be a theme in the rest of this video. Finally, AlexBigBlue, we are to the 5. And this is 5th, and this is where things are totally wonky. There's no way this book should be over the last few that I showed off. But the reason this is in my top 5 is because it's favorites. And this was, in my mind, the most prestigious book that I owned pre-channel. I believe I got this book probably between 2006 and 2008, somewhere in those years. So I had read X-Men 1 through 4, and I had read Weapon X 1 through 4, all Age of Apocalypse, and I finally figured out, okay, all those little shorts, those 1 through 4 series in Age of Apocalypse, they all come to a conclusion in this book. And when I finally got it, and the cover is so cool, I thought this book was so valuable till I actually saw it at Gamers Haven, and it was in like the dollar bin. So I looked it up. This is probably the iffiest on if this is a key, but I figure if it's the book that wraps up Age of Apocalypse, it's pretty well gotta be a key. But anyways, it wraps up all those storylines for the most part, or at least sets them up for the future. So I finally got to see how things end with X-Men, how things end with Weapon X, and then I saw the conclusion to several other stories that I still need to actually go back and read those runs, but this was a big deal to get this. This is the book that I paid $10 for pre-channel, which was insane because I was a kid who didn't have any money. So yeah, that was a big deal to me, and it means a whole lot to me now. I'll never get rid of this book. All right. So number 4 I actually have twice. So probably the most significant story of this one is the book that I wanted more than any book when I was a kid. I played Spider-Man PS1, and you could collect comics, and you could kind of you could see the covers, and you could read like the synopsis of what the comic was about. And so I knew that this was, at least debatably, first black suit Spider-Man. At least it has the value like it is. So in my mind, this is first suit Spider-Man, and I do have the other books that also claim to be first suit Spider-Man just to be safe. And I just didn't put them on here because I didn't want to do Spider-Man Overload or Spider-Man Black Suit Overload. But it's not just that, it's also that it's Secret Wars, which is probably my favorite story in all of comics. It's right there if it's not my favorite. And I do have all of Secret Wars, but this was the hardest book to get, of course. And I was just so happy I ended up getting this book at the end of my first FarleyCon. This was my goal, and I achieved it in season 1 of the channel. It was a significant moment for me. I love this book so much. I actually bought it twice. This one's not quite in as good a condition as the first one, as you could see the fold there. But this one I bought, I believe, from Shane and Dustin when they were doing their own comic auctions, but it was significantly cheaper than what I paid for the other one, and this has got to be the only really valuable book that I've ever bought twice, but can't help it. I just love it that much. Alright, next we probably have one that's unexpected, and I'm curious if Wesley will remember this one. This is also a book that I won, the second book on this in this list that I won. But number 3 on my top 5 favorite keys is Star Wars number 2. And as you can see in comic book form, this is first Han Solo and first Chewbacca. And also, as you can see at Battlegrounds, this was a $100 value. So I actually won this comic, fell over. I think I was driving when I found out that I won this. And yeah, I don't ever win anything. I know I said that before, but really, usually I don't. And this is one of the books I was most excited to show off and to like tell, hey, I got this for free. This was like the peak of the Battlegrounds auction days. I was so pumped when I won this. So that is a big part of like why it's one of my favorites. But also, dude, I owned Star Wars number 2. Who would have ever thought that? Also, a little bit of, I didn't want to overdo it with Spider-Man too much, because this whole list could be Spider-Man if I really wanted it to be. But Star Wars, one of my favorite things to exist, and this is number 2. Pretty awesome. Alright, so next we have a book you should all be familiar with. This was from my first FarleyCon? Yep. Or was this Cartersville Con? This may have been my first Cartersville Con. My memory is not what it used to be. Anyways, and I'm thinking it was Farley. I don't know. Anyways, we have The Amazing Spider-Man number 20. This is my oldest Spider-Man, and much like that Fantastic Four 19, there are several issues. There is a pinup missing, which is fine by me. I don't really care that much about that. Cover's kind of getting detached and it's trimmed a little bit. I can live with it because it made it affordable. This was the only way I would ever be able to own a book like this. It's not in great condition. There is a fold going through it along with all the other issues, but believe me, I don't care. This is first Scorpion. This is where really just the significance of the book dominates, but the fact that I got it at I think my first con, maybe my second con, just makes it a huge deal too. And this is probably a book I'll be showing off on this channel forever unless I actually do manage to get some more that can compete with this. This is just hard to beat. I know some people will scoff because of the condition, but believe me, that's the only way I can own this book, and I just can't believe that I own this book. As you can see, like the values are greatly varied as I go through these. So next, and this is going to be a surprise to precisely no one, number 1 of my favorite keys, we have The Amazing Spider-Man number 300. So this, though, even though I've showed it off several times, even though, I'm sure a lot of collectors have this in their collection. Honestly, if you were a 12-year-old collecting comics in the early 90s or late 80s, you may have this book and may have had it forever. But for me, it was hard to obtain. I finally did it. This was my ultimate goal book. Realistically, I think without paying a crazy number, this was probably the most significant comic I was able to buy. In terms of my favorite things, Spider-Man, it'll be hard for me to ever top this one. But it also gets it from both sides, because not only is it probably the most significant book I own, it also has the story with Shane, where this was the book that kicked it off. Because I worked on this with Shane, and I was like, Shane, what am I looking at? What can I do? What's the price range for this book? How can I get it? And that was when he hooked me up. It's definitely the most I've ever paid for a comic. You can't just give this away. But he did make it where I had a way to afford it, and that means the world to me. And I don't know if comics have ever quite been the same for me since Shane passed away, which is the sad truth. But even though this is the most valuable book I own, I don't think I could ever, it's not even my nature, but I don't think I could ever part with it because of what it means, from Shane. Also, at that point in my life, I had just moved into my new home. I was just a couple months away from getting married, and my life was changing. COVID was starting, and I look back at this time in my life, where I got this book, and it was just so special. What a significant time in my life. What a special book to me. Also, even just in another way that it's significant, this book is the symbol of probably my favorite era of our channel, which is so weird to say because I loved our first season. Really, nothing maybe the first season unless we ever get in a groove and life kind of slows down, because I love showing off the comic book stores. But my favorite videos to go back to are the ones where we both just kind of hit up Shane at the same time, and he was helping us get some of our dream books. And I remember making the late night trips over to Wesley and Jessica's house, before we were married, before we had kids, and showing them a surprise book that Shane had gifted them, or showing off. I mean, they were just showing off like amazing books left and right because, Shane, and I want to give Dustin credit too. I mainly contacted Shane. I did it through Shane, but I know that those guys they've worked together. They were partners, in a lot of ways. So, I mean, they both definitely made it possible. I just communicated with Shane. So, but dang, I really miss him. And, yeah, this book, it's a runaway #1. It's really not even close, just considering all that. But this book is just a symbol of a lot for me. Not to even mention, it's just First Venom, which is a book I would have, if I knew what it was when I was a kid, this would have definitely been the book I would have wanted more than anything. So, sorry for being so long-winded. Sorry this video is extremely long. If you're still here, thanks so much for watching. And, maybe next time I'll actually do a legit just top 5, but I couldn't turn down the opportunity to speak on all this. So, thanks for watching. Bye.